Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Today's episode is going to be titled, Don't Tell People to Worry, because it's counterproductive. To be honest, I've never been a fan of people telling others that they should be worried about something. It's such a common phrase, but it carries a tone that feels both dismissive and cruel. When someone says, you should be worried, what are they really accomplishing? It sounds like concern, but it's often something else entirely. I understand the impulse behind it. Sometimes people want others to recognize the gravity of a situation. They want accountability, responsibility, a sense that actions have consequences. I believe in that too. People absolutely should take responsibility when they've done something wrong. If someone hurts another person, lies, or behaves carelessly, they should face the results of that behavior. That's how people grow. But telling someone they should be worried rarely contributes to that growth. It doesn't fix anything. It just adds another layer of panic on top of whatever is already wrong. Let's say I got caught cheating in a relationship. A friend might tell me, you should be worried, because they think I'm about to face heartbreak or confrontation. I can see why they'd say it. They're angry or disappointed, or they think I deserve to squirm a little. But what's the point of encouraging more anxiety? If I already know I've messed up, worry is already there. I don't need someone to pour gasoline on that fire. Anxiety doesn't make me think more clearly. It makes me shut down. The better approach would be to stay calm, reflect, and figure out how to take accountability. When you push someone to worry, you risk making the situation spiral. Anxiety doesn't motivate everyone. Sometimes it paralyzes them. Sometimes it makes them lash out. You never know what that person is carrying. Imagine someone already feels their life is falling apart. They hear, you should be worried, and suddenly they tip over the edge. They might act irrationally, not because they're bad, but because they're terrified. Fear does strange things to people. That's why telling someone to worry isn't just unhelpful, it can be dangerous. You can't predict how fear will manifest in someone else's body or mind. Anxiety isn't one size fits all. I learned this lesson when I was a teenager. My mother had gone to Las Vegas for a short vacation. I must have been around 15 or 16. While she was away, she called and texted to check if I was keeping up with chores. I hadn't done much. I'd been sleeping most of the day, probably avoiding responsibility like any lazy teen. When I admitted that, she reminded me my dad would be home soon and that he wouldn't be pleased. She told me I should clean up immediately before he got back. That made sense. But then she said something that stuck with me. You should be worried. That phrase landed like a punch. I remember freezing, thinking, what good does my worry do? How does it make the house cleaner? If anything, my anxiety made me clumsy and unfocused. I rushed through chores, panicking instead of actually fixing the situation. It wasn't that she meant harm. It was a habit. People say things like that automatically without considering the emotional cost. Society is full of these empty, recycled phrases we pass around without thought. I didn't question it much back then, but recently I heard someone else say, you should be worried in another situation, and it brought all those memories back. It made me realize how little the phrase accomplishes. We can't control what others say. People will always speak out of emotion, tradition, or ego. But we can control our own words and how we respond. That's where real responsibility lies. Now, when someone tells me I should worry, I don't just absorb it. I question it. I ask, why? What's the purpose? What are they really trying to achieve by saying that? Sometimes I think people say it to soothe their own egos. When someone else is uneasy, it gives them a strange sense of control. It's like they're saying, see, you're scared now, so I have the upper hand. That kind of behavior isn't about concern. It's about power. It's a quiet ego trip disguised as advice. We tell people to be worried not because it helps them, but because it reassures us that they're feeling what we think they should feel. It validates our sense of moral superiority. As I get older, I'm trying to unlearn that impulse in myself. I want to communicate in ways that actually help. I want to be more thoughtful, not just more correct. I'm trying to be more productive mentally and emotionally, to think clearly, to speak consciously, to stay positive even when the world is grinding its teeth around me. It reminds me of how George Carlin used to dissect language. He'd take these ordinary phrases and twist them open to reveal their absurdity, like his joke about New York and London being overseas. He pointed out that there's really only one sea between them, so technically, it's oversea. That kind of linguistic curiosity fascinates me. We don't question how we talk because it's so ingrained. But when you stop to think about it, so much of what we say is either meaningless or misdirected. I'm not going to make it my life's mission to correct every person who says you should be worried. People have their reasons. Sometimes it's habit, sometimes it's stress. Still, if I find the right moment, if the setting feels thoughtful rather than confrontational, I'll bring it up. I'll explain why that phrase can be so harmful, especially for people who live with anxiety. This isn't just a philosophical musing for me. I've struggled with anxiety for most of my life. It's been a constant shadow, appearing and disappearing over the years. When I was a child, it came in waves, intense for months, then quiet for years. In my late teens, it resurfaced. By my early 20s, it was back full force. By my mid-20s, it became something I had to actively manage. So when someone tells a person like me to worry, it doesn't land as advice. It lands as an insult. It's the emotional equivalent of telling a diabetic they should panic because they might not get insulin. It's not clever. It's cruel. It mocks something that person battles daily. You wouldn't tell someone with depression to get sadder. You wouldn't tell someone with asthma to breathe harder. Yet, people tell those with anxiety to worry more as if that's productive. Words matter. They can soothe or they can scar. Being mindful of that isn't weakness. It's maturity. We never truly know what someone else is living through. Everyone has invisible burdens, and some are heavier than they'll ever admit. We like to imagine a world without anxiety, but that's fantasy. Anxiety is part of being human. The goal isn't to erase it, it's to understand it and not make it worse. Technology might one day create mood regulators or AI-based solutions that can manage anxiety chemically or neurologically. But even then, not everyone will choose to use them. So the real task isn't elimination, it's compassion. It's learning how to speak to each other without adding weight to already heavy hearts. There's already enough fear in the world, enough stress, danger, uncertainty. People are anxious about money, politics, safety, relationships, the future, everything. In a world already straining under that pressure, adding, "You should be worried," is like kicking someone who's already down. It doesn't toughen them, it breaks them. Maybe I see it differently because I've lived it. Maybe people who've never had panic attacks or constant dread can't grasp how heavy those words can feel. They think worry equals accountability, but fear doesn't teach, it suffocates. If I could, I'd sit those people down and explain the difference between reflection and anxiety, between awareness and panic. And maybe, if they really listened, they'd stop using fear as a teaching tool. Because in the end, fear doesn't make people better. Understanding does. Anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of the Moors October Rants. Signing out. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye for now.